साकत की बुरी माए, वैष्णव की कुकर भली, वैष्णव की कुकर भली। साकत की बुरी माए, साकत की बुरी माए, ओह नित सुने हर नाम, ओ पाप बिसाहन जाए। ओ नित सुने हर नाम, ओ पाप बिसाहन जाए। वैष्णव की कुकर भली, वैष्णव की कुकर भली। हर नाद बुला कबीर, हर नाद बुला, ए हरियारा तार। कबीर हर नाद बुला, ए हरियारा तार। लाख अहेरी एक जियो, लाख अहेरी एक जियो, केता पंचो काल, केता पंचो काल। कबीर हर नाद बुला, कबीर गंगा तीर्थ जो घर करे, पीवे निर्मल नीर। बिन हर भगत न मुक्त हुए, एऊ कह रमे कबीर। कबीर मन निर्मल भया, जैसा गंगा नीर। पाछे लागे हरि फिरे, कहत कबीर कबीर। कबीर हर दे पियरी, चूना उजल भाए। हर दे पियरी, चूना निर्धन भाए। राम स्नेही नाव मिले, दोनों बरन गवाए। हर दे पीरतन हरे, चून चहन ना रहाए। बलहारी ये प्रीत को, बलहारी ये प्रीत को। यह जात बरन कुल जाए, वैष्णव की कुकर भली। कबीर मुक्त द्वारा संकुरा, राय 10वें भाए। मन में गल होए रहो, एक सो क्यों कह जाए। कबीर ऐसा सतगुर जे मिले, उठा करे बसाओ। मुक्त द्वारा मुखला, सहजे आवो जाओ। कबीरा छापुरे नामुहे घर नहीं गाओ मत हर पूछे कौन है मेरे जात नाओ वैष्णव की कुकर भली साकत की बुरी माए वैष्णव की कुकर भली
वैष्णव की कुकर भली. Now, when you read these statements, to a lot of people it sounds very strange. Kabir, 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 why is he repeating again and again in everything? Is he so fond of listening to his own word, on his own name? He's repeating that? And that's not the secret. It's the same thing that the majority of in the Sikh religion, that question is asked. Why everywhere it's Surah Shlok Mahalla Panjma, Shlok Mahalla Panjma, say it once and be done with it. Why repeat it? For every hymn, every shabd, why did you say that? You say the raga, you say the name of Mahalla, why do you say that? It's not their arrogance that's speaking. It's our arrogance that's interpreting it. The secret is very deep in this. You know, these are called shlokas. Shlok usually it comprises of 2 lines. And in those 2 lines, the thought in itself is complete. It's a Puran Brahmagyan. Every statement in itself is complete. You do not need to study and analyze the second one. If you have taken the first one, just stay with that. It's enough. It will revolutionize your life. It will bring some changes in you. If you want to take just any statement, just pick one shlok and stay with that. And that's enough. Because it has given the message completely. Say for example, in Urdu there is a poetic form called Rubai. Rubai is of 4 lines. And the structure of a Rubai is that in the first 2 lines, the poet sets the stage for the message. And in the 4th line, he actually delivers the message. The first 2 lines are to set the stage. Whereas in a shloka, both lines are complete. Similarly, in Guru Granth Sahib, all hymns by themselves are complete. There will be a question and there will be answer within the same hymn. That's why it has to repeat. Now again, it's a new, said the same thing but in a different fashion, in a different way. So Kabir repeating it himself is not being arrogant. When the first word is in the beginning of the sentence, it is he is addressing himself. He's not giving his name. He's not telling the world. He's telling himself. He's talking to himself. So it's not to be, and this is a very common question, particularly those who are the students of Vedanta and studies Vedas. They will argue about this ad infinitum. Why? Because none of the Vedas have the names of the originators or the writers. The authors are not mentioned there. So to them, that is a sign of achievement that the name is not important. And this is a sign of arrogance that the writer is repeating his own name again and again and again. So what does it mean? They have not lost their ego. They look, every word repeats their name. Now Kabir actually has, and today we will look at the shloka where he says that my mother made a mistake in choosing the word Kabir, by choosing the name Kabir, because Kabir literally means the greater than the greatest. When translated, Kabir word means greater than the greatest. And he says, my mother got absolutely overwhelmed and thought that her kid is greater than the greatest, and it is nothing could be bigger lie than this. I'm nobody. And he describes that in his, and he says, well, the real Kabir kaun hai? Kabir tu, tero naam Kabir. Kabir tu, Kabira tu, tero naam Kabir, Ram Ratan tab paaye jay pehle taje shri. This is the mind that is focused on the body and the physical dimension, who's attracted by this, who's focused on that, who's thinking about this, he is only alluding himself as if he's on the spiritual path. Spiritual path, if the sense of the mind-body system is still there, you are not nowhere even closer. You haven't taken the first step yet. And amongst us today, there's a master of the Patanjali Yoga, and you can discuss with him that when Patanjali started, he did not start the exercises of the body. The yoga's foundation is that he's watching the saints in various stages of evolution. And what he observed, that depending upon the inner event, the body changes. So he started with the hypothesis that if the inner changes are reflected in the outside body, and I can observe it, can the mind be influenced by changing the body first, and then watching inside whether the same evolution takes place or not? Now he started experimenting. He would watch those saints in those mudras and then come back and practice being in that mudra and watch his own inner self. Is the change taking place? And as he was able to achieve that state within, then he documented that. Patanjali Yoga is the result of his research. That if you truly know how the mudra can actually create the inner changes and do that mudra to that effectiveness, then mind-body system are related and one can get to the same state. The objective was the state, not the mudra. The objective was to get to that ultimate experience. But who does that? And that's what Kabir ji is saying today. He said, Basanon ki kukar bhari. Basanon means the Bhagat, the meditator, the one who has achieved. Kukar means the dog. He says that dog, that animal, who stays near that saint, that evolved soul, that soul is better than who? Sakat ki buri mae. The one who is, Sakat means the one who follows his own mind. The Jisnu, Punjabi, man mukh kya hai, Gurmat ne. If you're making notes, in Gurmukhi that would be man mukh. The one who follows one's own intellect, one's own thought. Now what are thoughts? What is my mind? What is my thought? When a child is born, the only memory the child has is from the sanskara, from the past lives, which we are not aware of. That's why each child is different, because it does have a memory from the previous cycles. But now this cycle will add something from itself. So we start teaching the child. All of the information that child collects from different sources, whether it's from the parents, from the society, from the universities, from the job, from the playgrounds, and all that is absorbing, and by some of his or her own observation, that collection is what is called mind. Mind is not a solid thing. You cannot dissect a body and find where the mind is. It's the collection of those thoughts. So the information that the person has collected has come biased with the sources. The source had its own bias, and it projected the information. I absorb it, so I absorb that bias as well. Hence, it is not pure in form. So if now I start following that, that is what in the realm of spirituality is called manmukh. the one who follows his own mind, his own thought. If somebody says don't do that, he says why not? Well, here's the reason why I don't know, but I have seen this, and that's what I'm going to do because I have seen it. Such type of souls have very little chance of evolving in the spiritual realm. They may achieve a lot more in the physical realm. That's possible. In the material world, they may be successful a lot more. But in the spiritual domain, they have very little success. And Kabir says, Sakat ki buri mae. Now this is something that in the Eastern culture is hammered very much, the responsibility of the mother. I know the ladies don't like to hear that because why am I more responsible? What happened to father? Is he not really responsible in raising the children? Eastern mysticism, this discussion of equality to the Eastern mind actually is a losing proposition for the mother. She is actually devaluing herself by competing with the male energy. In all spiritual literature, Eastern mysticism literature, feminine energy is considered higher than the male energy. This thought has been borrowed from the West, that they should be equal. Actually, they are doing disservice to themselves. Now, why is that? Because the Eastern mysticism says that the feminine energy is closer to the spirituality than the masculine energy. Because if you want to look at the Creator as a creator, sustainer, and a destroyer, that the Trimurti, three faces, and all the religion shows that Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, three faces. Trishul, three energies are represented differently in different religions. Sustainer, creator, and the destroyer. Eastern mysticism says that the feminine energy has two of those elements, creating and sustaining. The child is not born yet, but the milk is already being produced in the female body. So, the creation is going to come afterward. The sustenance has come through her before. She has those two energies already in her, automatically granted by the Creator. Male doesn't have any one of them. That's why male is always running and rushing around trying to create something. The male wants to become a sculptor, a painter, a scientist, a leader, a winner of something. Female energy doesn't want. Alexander wants to conquer the world. Have you ever heard of a female Alexander who wants to go kill half of the world and rule over it? The female energy is complete. Says, why should I worry about creating a statue out of a marble when I have a living statue right in front of me? I don't need one. She's complete. She's at peace. Whereas the male energy is not. Hence, male energy runs outside. It is for that reason the responsibility of nurturing and creating is on the female energy, not on the male energy. So it is not a condemnation, even though those who want to exploit one against the other. First the wife will go and say, Saintji, help me, my husband fights, so she will do this puja. And then the husband will come and say, my wife is doing this, well you do that puja. Well, he wins both ways. But that's not the purpose here. Kabir is saying, he says that mother who has created this type of soul, in one of the shlokas he goes even further. I'm amazed at how clear Kabir is on this topic. He says, Kabira, जो ग्रह पूत न ब्रह्म बेचारी विधवा क्यों न भई महतारी. Look what he's saying. He's saying if the offspring, पूत doesn't mean just the son, he's saying if जो ग्रह पूत न ब्रह्म बेचारी, if the creation you have not raised in such a way that they are actually meditating on the ultimate energy, Brahma Vichar. And that's what Brahman is. Brahman soi jo binde Brahm. Bandhan tode hove mukat soi Brahman pujan jugat. He says, what's the definition of Brahman in the spiritual world? He says the one who actually is focused on the Brahm, the ultimate creator. So Kabir says, if you do not have the child raised as the one who is focused on the Brahm, what was the need to produce the child? Vidva kyona bahi mehtari. It was better that your husband should have died before giving you a child, because that seed is not going anywhere. Now look, he goes even further than. He says, Jo nar Ram Bhagat nahi sadhi, janmat kyo na muho aparadhi. He says, let's assume for a minute that both father and the mother were ignorant and they produced a child in ignorance. And now you are born, and if you are not going to focus on the Brahm, what is the advantage of you increasing the weight on the earth? You should have died right after birth. This life is useless. You wasted it. Jo nar Ram Bhagat nahi sadhi, janmat kyun na muho aparadhi. You should have died right after birth, because if that's what you came for, was to get focused on the physical dimension, then you wasted the whole life cycle. So might as well finish it first. So he not only condemns the parents, then he goes further and tries to hammer on the individual consciousness and say, wake up. He says, Kabir, Baisano ki kukar bhali. He says, the dog who is sitting at the door of that meditator is better, and that one who's only chasing the wealth of the world, not only he is bad, his mother is also bad. Sakat ki buri mae, she created this. Okay, now why are you being so hard on them? He answers that question. See, Shloka is complete. He created a problem first. He stated the problem. Now he's going to answer as to why I'm so hard on it. He says, Ohonit sune har naam. That dog sitting on the door of the meditator listens to the chanting of his name or her name or its name 24 hours. Oho nit sune har naam. That dog is actually exposed to that meditative energy continuously. And what about the other one? He says, oh, Papa Bisahan Jai. He says, what is the other person doing? He says, that Marmukh, the one who's following his own thought, what is he going to do? He's going to get up in the negative direction. Every action would be negative. Why? Because he's going to try to collect power, wealth, energy. It doesn't matter what type of things you want to call. Anything that you do with the physical world. That's what the person does, right? I mean, we are raising our children. You be a scientist and you be a leader and you become a governor and you become a president, or you become a crorepati, you become zillionaire. I mean, because I work in the computer science world, I hear this whenever a child would be brought to me by the parents or help guide them in the first, they want to know, how do I become the next Bill Gates? What field should I choose so that I can become a billionaire in this lifetime as he did? That is the energy we created. They are not at fault. We don't tell them that the earning is for survival. We don't tell them that the real purpose of the human body is something other than. We say the sole purpose is that you collect so much wealth and power that the next generation doesn't have to work. And we keep on hammering that thought. If we don't, the next door neighbor does. and they come back, the children come back, and we have absolutely nothing to counteract that energy. Hence, the children will go in that direction. We are already walking in that direction. I am just as much a victim of that same conspiracy as we are passing the conspiracy on to our children. If you are to ask me, what the hell are you doing here? Why aren't you in India? It's the same reason. I came to collect wealth. And to collect wealth, then whatever means are going to be negative. Because the wealth cannot be accumulated by positive means. It is its characteristics, it is nature. It cannot be accumulated, whether it's a wealth in terms of money, whether it's a wealth in terms of power, political, spiritual for that matter, religious power. How do you become a religious powerful person? You will join a certain group and then you will start voting and collecting the people who are of your side. Whether it is right or wrong, if you belong to a particular group, you are going to vote for that particular group. There is no other way to collect the power. And Kabir ji says, that's why I say, साकत की बुरी माएं. ओह नित सुने हर नाम, जस ओ पाप बिसाहन जाए. The manmukh, the sakat, would always go after collecting the riches of the world of different dimensions, which will take him to the negative energy. And that's why I say that dog is better than that human who is following his own mind. Now he goes on to expand this. Why did he hammer that part so hard? Now look at the next shlok. He said, Kabir, harna dubla, ihe haryara tal, lakh aheri ek jiyo, keta bancho kal. See, that, and that's the beauty of the meditators, the Bhagats, those saints. Evolved souls, they look at everything compassionately. Because the first shloka might have given the impression to someone, well, he is condemning everybody and he is calling this good and that bad. He says, no, that's not the case. He's alerting. What is he alerting? He says, Kabir harna dubla. Very weak. Harn, the Jeevistri, the human self, harn, that animal is very weak. And it's, on the other hand, Ihe Haryara Ta, the attraction of the senses is so powerful. Haryala means the one that looks beautiful. We go to the gardens and we look at the vegetations and green and it's very peaceful, looks very alluring. Haryara means alluring, it is attracting. And Ta, the world. This world, the outer dimension is very attractive, very alluring. Every magic world, magic show that you watch has to be made interesting, isn't it? He's doing simple card trick. And in that card trick, he's going to tell so many jokes. And he's going to make so much fun. And he's going to use so many trickery. And the trick is only one. Why does he do that? Because every trick has to be made entertaining. If it's not entertaining, first thing, it will finish in a few minutes. And if it's dull, the people will just walk away. So a 3-minute show becomes a 3-hour show because that's how the presentation is. And Kabir says that's the presentation of Maya. Haryara Tal. The outer world is very alluring. Why it is alluring? Because the feedback mechanism is instantaneous. If I touch something soft, I feel that softness immediately. If I taste something sweet, I taste that right away. The feedback mechanism is instantaneous. Hence it's very attractive. But if somebody tells you, sit down and meditate for so many hours, so many days, so many months. And then you say, well, why? Well, do you guarantee me that it will happen? Well, I'm sorry, I can't guarantee you even for the whole lifetime. You can do this sadhana for the entire lifetime. I still cannot guarantee you, well, then forget it. There is no feedback. There is no guarantee of this. That's why the Maya, the outer world, is so attractive. And look, he says, this is not only enough. If there was only one attraction, I would understand that. He says, Lakh aheri, ek jio. In another couplet, he says, Avar panch, ham ek jana, kyun rakho ghar bar mana. He says, if there is Sarvar pankhi hekdo, phahi wal pachas. Ihtan lari gadtiya, sache teri aas. Look at the example he gives. This Sarvar pankhi hekdo. He says that you only need one net to catch so many birds, right? Throw the net, throw the seed, the birds will come and you. Every bird can be tied. There may be hundreds of them. He says, look at those birds, and there's only one net required. But look at the bird that is this human animal. He says, Sarvar pankhi hekdo. See this single bird, and what's happening is a phahi wal pachas. He says there are hundreds of the people ready to throw the net to catch this. The attractions to this one bird are so many. And one net is enough to catch so many birds. You say, what should happen to this bird? Who is actually being hammered by and hunted by so many hunters. He says, at least I know 5 of them. He says, I know 5 of them. Our punch, there are 5 of them. Ham ek jana, I am only one. Kyun rakhu ghar bar mana? How should I say myself? And then if these 5 senses, those he is calling, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar, the 5 senses, he says they are, if they were to attack me once in a while, I understand that, or maybe I can defend myself. Say, nahi, mare, loote, neet, neet. Kise aage kari pukar mana? Say, what should I do? They don't give up. 24 hours of the day and night, they keep on hammering me and hammering me. And even if I say for a moment, I am going to sit down here, I am not going to listen to you. He says, they don't listen. They say, okay, you continue what you want to do, let's see who wins. And I always lose. I always lose. किसे आगे करी पुकार में ना राग पिता प्रभु मेरे मोहे निर्गुण सब गुण तेरे पंच बखादी एक रखीदा राखो राखन हारे नाथ कछु न जानो मन माया के हाथ बिकानो हम कहिए तो कल जुग के कामी तुम कहिए सत जुग के स्वामी इन पंचन मेरो मन जो बिगारे हो पल पल हर जीते अंतर डारे. He says every moment they suggest me and their suggestion is go further away, go further in the outer world, go further and beyond and beyond. They do not let me come inside at all. Every moment of waking and sleeping they keep on hammering me, and every suggestion they give me, every encouragement they give me, every idea that comes is to go outside. No exception. And they are all together, all 5 of them. And he says, Lakh aheri ek jiyo. Aheri means the hunters, shikari. There are so many hunters here. Keta bancho ka. Say, how is this person, how is this jeev, how is this bird going to save himself when the attacks are so powerful, they are so strong? And he says, let me help you. I understand your plight. I understand your difficulties. I am one of them. I have gone through this process. He is in the physical body. He has the same type of problems we do. He is married. He has children. He is working. He has a business. He has a job. He is raising the family, raising the children. He also has to marry his daughter off. He also has to create his business environment. All the problems that we are facing. He says, let me help you now. Look at the next shloka. He creates this stage and now he's going to help us solve the problem. He says, Kabir, Ganga tir jo ghar kare, पीवे निर्मल नीर बेनहार भगत ना मुक्त होए एवं कह रमे कबीर. He says, let me tell you. Somebody might have told you. Now he spent his whole life on the banks of river Ganges because that's considered to be the holiest of waters in our country. And now he's hammering that thought. He says the Ganga Neer is not outside. Somebody put you on the wrong path. This water is not pure. Those they are telling you that go take a dip in it and all of your sins will be washed away. What's the fault of poor Ganga? You did the sin and she should be the one who should be taking the blame on it. What kind of game is this? He says, no. That's not what it was meant. You misunderstood. Because the Hindu mythology said that Ganga came out of the hair of Shiva. What does that mean? It's not hair of Shiva. The symbol was, the parable was, that the Ganga is what comes out of the awareness of this, the Samdwar. When the Samdwar khule, when the 10th door opens up, third eye opens up, the energy that flows through that, when you achieve that highest state, is called Ganga. The purest form of energy flowing out. It's not the water. He says, if you want that, if you want to see that, let me tell you, Kabir Ganga Tir jo ghar kare. Ghar means this human body form. If you start purifying the body and the mind, Pive nirmal neer, and neer is underlined here. Neer doesn't mean liquid. That once you purify, then don't put anything impure in it. Without following the path of bhakti marg, it doesn't matter what type of bhakti you do, which way you do, you are going to have to actually do that penance. You are actually have to work on it. You are actually going to have to meditate. You are actually going to have, whether it's the Nam, Simran, Nam, Japan, you're going to have to do it. It's not just reading and just understanding and just explaining and just talking and just discussing and arguing. Not going to do anything. It may be the first step in that direction that, okay, now I understand. But the real thing is going to start when you actually do it. Benhar bhagat na mukt hoye, eon keh rame Kabir. Now, does it mean Kabir has come twice in this sentence? Are both Kabir same? No, they are not. First Kabir is when he is referring to himself. Second Kabir is when he is referring to him. Rame Kabir. That's how you get merged into that Kabir, that ultimate creator. To Rame means to become one, to merge. The bhakti, the meditation, all kinds of penance, all kinds of this should have one and only one objective. If your objective is that I am going to collect some magic power and then start impressing the people, that's not what Kabir's path is. That's not what Sikhism is all about. Sikhism does not say that. That is, if you just learn a few magic tricks, and make the people follow you and make a livelihood, then that's all. The doctors spend so many years of studying the books to get that degree. You have studied the books and gotten that degree. You are making your living that way, that's making living the other way. No difference. Kabir says, no, the objective of this is only one. And what is that? He said, to be one with the Creator. The soul has come out of that Creator, it must get back to the source. The drop must get back to the ocean. That is the aim. And if there is anything other than that, it's nothing more than a self-illusion. It's self-delusion. He does not compromise on that. And he says, this is not something that is a theory. Look at the next shloka. He says, Kabir, man nirmal bhaya jaisa ganga neer. See that he comes back and repeats the same parable twice. He says, what I'm talking, what is it? Ganga, and what is the water in the Ganga? He says, it is the mind and the thought in that mind, the content of that mind. It has become so pure, now it is a paradox. A pure mind is non-existent. Understand this final point. A mind which has content in it is not pure. He says, Kabir, man nirmal bhaya. As, after all, mind is nothing but the collection of thought processes. So how would the mind become pure? To get rid of those thoughts. But if the thoughts are gone, where is the mind? Mind was a collection of those thoughts. Look at the parable. But if you say it straight away, why isn't he saying simply that get rid of the mind? Why not to say just get rid of it? Get rid of all the thoughts. That's what Buddha tried to say when he's saying, even listen to Krishnamurti, that's all he's hammering on. He says, sir, see the thought without the thought. You say, say that again. Observe the thought without the thought. You say, what do you mean? This is circular logic. And Kabir says in a beautiful parabolic way, why can't it said be directly? Gurbani says, here is the secret. He says, man mare dhaat mar jaye, bin har muwe kaise har paaye. He says, the mind has to be transformed as you transform the metal. Right? We have in our body we have iron, right? We have magnesium, we have various metals, elements. Well, if somebody says the iron is short in your blood supply, are you going to go and eat the iron now? Right? You can't. You can't buy the iron and get the iron into the body. So how do you do it? You transform it. When you transform it, it becomes iron oxide, and then it gets ground and it gets and now it can be made into a tablet, and you can take the iron tablet. That transformation. When you look at that tablet, which is called iron tablet, there is no quality of iron that is visible in that tablet. Yet it is iron. And Gurbani says, the mind will be there. But kaise? He says, man mare taat mar jaye. Mind is to be transformed as you transform the metal. Why? Because bin man muve kaise har paaye. Without that transformation, you cannot walk on that path. Oh, but that's a very difficult task. He said, yeah. He says, man shabd mare. Daru jane koe. When you take that word, the one that you start chanting, whether it's Om or Vaheguru, Satanam or Ram or Allah or Rahim, doesn't matter. You take a word and you start chanting that. it becomes part of you and mind starts coming under control. The thought starts dropping. As the thoughts are dropping, the mind is disappearing. That's no mind. That's what Dinesh kept on hammering. No mind, no mind. What does it mean? So why not say it directly? He says, well, the problem is the manhi ko man marasi. It is the instrument. This is the instrument you are going to use to control the instrument. So now the mind knows that if I go on that path, I am going to be no more. So what is the mind going to do? If you sit on my chest and start choking me, what am I going to do? When I know you're going to kill me, am I not going to fight? Am I not going to defend myself? That's what mind does. If the mind is alerted right in the beginning, that I am sitting here to kill you, you say, well, okay, I'll take care of you. Mind will never let you settle down. Hence, no saint will directly say to you that you need to become completely free of mind. You say, no, don't do that. Leave the mind alone. What should I do that? What should I do? You say, just take this word. They won't say, don't think of the mind. And there's a beautiful parable in Zenism. And that's a cone. And they give this cone to the initiates. They come and say, well, go sit on that hill, say, and don't think of the monkey. Okay. It's a very simple thing. I'm not going to think of the monkey. So he goes on the hill. He's looking around. There's no tree around. There's no monkey around. He says, oh, wait a minute. Master said, go sit on the hill and don't think of the monkey. Where is the monkey? Now his whole day is spent looking for the monkey. And there is no monkey. Where was the monkey? What Master meant was, that monkey, the mind, the naughty one. Don't focus on, whenever the thought comes, just let it go. Don't go along with the thought. The thought is random in nature. Have you ever observed your own thought process? I would encourage you that today when you go home, just for 5 minutes, sit down, close your eyes and observe your thought. And if you are able to do that, you will be surprised that there is no relationship between what the thoughts come and how they come. I'm sitting down, the first thought may be, I have not taken a pillow. Yeah, I'm going to get tired, so let me go get the pillow. So I put the pillow down. So now sit down again. Telephone is still there. Now is there a relationship between the pillow and the telephone? Oh, let me put the telephone on the hook. I don't want to be disturbed. Okay. You sit down again. The door? Oh, let me lock that. But I didn't take care of the kid. Okay, so now you have taken off the outer side. What do you sit down? And suddenly the thoughts will start coming. How long am I going to be able to sit? This is the first time. Will the knee hurt? No relationship. Last year when I went to India, somebody was sitting there. Just like that. How did I go last year? I was just sitting here. Where did this thought come? I saw somebody sitting last year in Madras while I was visiting India. When you observe yourself, they are totally unrelated, like clouds in the sky. They randomly come. Now, what is the habit of one who is not trained in the meditative technique? They will take one thought and will go building on that one. Oh, in India, I saw that, yeah, actually my sister was there also. Nephew could not come, I don't know why. Yeah. Next time I'm going to see him. That's your meditation. You'll pick up one thought and will keep on building again, and suddenly 5 minutes will go by. So, oh my God, what happened? And what Master was saying, go sit on the hill, don't think of the monkey. The mind is going to bring the thought, don't go along with it. Just observe. and draw yourself back. Honor the thought, don't fight with it, don't argue with it, and don't cooperate with it. Just acknowledge it and say, yeah, okay, I know where you came from. And just sit for 5 minutes and watch. When you do that, slowly, when mind finds out that I'm not getting the energy, look at the clouds. When the clouds are formed in the sky, if there is more moisture, the cloud will start becoming bigger. But let's assume there is no more moisture. That cloud will start dissipating because it has not gotten any more energy. We provide the energy to the thoughts as they stay with us. As we train our mind, train ourself, our consciousness, to not to supply the energy, the thoughts start dropping down. And suddenly the mind starts going away. As the clouds clear, the sky is over. Now you are getting into the states of meditativeness. And that's what Kabir ji is saying. Benhar bhagat na mukta hoye, eo kam rahe Kabir. Two Kabirs he has used. And in the next sentence he says, Kabir, man nirmal bhaya jaisa ganga neer. That's what he is trying to say. Man nirmal means the mind is gone. Just as there is no content, a pure flow, and then what? He says, Pache lage har fire kahat Kabir Kabir. Now this statement has been translated by almost every translator that I have read in a totally different way, and I'll tell you what they have said, and I'll share with you why I don't agree with that. Literally translated, it means that Kabir is saying that my mind now is so pure that even God is running after me and he's calling me, hey Kabir, come back. Pache lage har fire kahat Kabir Kabir. Can you imagine a real Brahm Jnani making an arrogant statement like that? If Kabir and Har are two separate things, right? If the God, if the Creator is calling Kabir, पीछे पीछे भाग रहा है वो, तो एक कबीर हुआ, एक हर हुआ, तो ब्रह्म ज्ञानी कैसे हुआ? They are two separate energies, right? I'm not in agreement with that translation at all, because it is purely literal, done grammatically, and Kabir's hintings have something totally different. He says, what has happened? Now I'll share with you how I read this. He says, Kabir man nirmal bhaya jaisa ganga neer. He says the mind has gone, become purified, it has disappeared. How? How did I get there? He says, I went on the path of the Hari. Pache lage harpe. What did I do? He says, Kahat Kabir Kabir. Uska naam japta raha. He's using word Kabir as him. And he's repeating. He says, I repeated his name. I stayed on that path. And what has happened? All of those distractions of the mind have dropped. He's helping us on the path. He is giving us the hints as to how to do that. The Bhakti Marg of starting with Kabir, Farid and Ravidas and Namdev and Nanak to Gobind Singh. This 500 years old Sampada has hammered on the meditation on a single word. They have not hammered and say, pick which word. I say, pick your word. The hammering or the thought process is that one way to control the mind, to eventually help it tame it down, is to take one word and chant it. Not to make it an entertainment. वो कान रस नहीं बनाना उसका, तमाशा नहीं. It's not an entertainment. As a matter of fact, it will sound very, very boring, very, very rough. You will feel like absolutely running out of this world and say, what is this nonsense? In the beginning, that's the state of mind. I can tell you, if you are not willing to go through that discipline, this is not the path for you. Because when you start, it's going to be absolutely tasteless, downright disturbing. Why? Because as the mind, it's such a powerful technique, as the mind finds that somebody is actually squeezing the energy out of me, it's going to start fighting even harder. It's going to come with the ideas from nowhere, which you may not be able to even recognize. I remember when I was working with some of the meditators, and there is a technique in Tantra of Tarita, staring into the mirror. That's why it's called Tantra. And in that, the evolutionary stages will tell you that when you are watching your own face, suddenly your own face will distort. You will not see your own face. Something totally different will project. And people will get scared. They will immediately want to get out of the state, shake their head and say, what's going on here? Why don't I see my face? And the reality is that actually it is a projection from within your memory, from your consciousness. If you don't get scared by this and you don't get distracted by it, slowly you will start seeing more and more projections. But the mind will bring the projections which are much more stronger and it will test you. And it is actually your own suppressed memories that are playing out. It's not anybody else's image. Because when you are sitting by yourself, think about it. If you're sitting by yourself, the room is closed, the door is closed, and you are thinking about it, neither your wife, nor your child, nor your friend is bothering you. If the thought of the child or the wife or the friend came, where did it come from? It's from inside you, isn't it? If the door is closed, your eyes are closed, nobody is home, why are you thinking of your child? It's not child who's bothering you, it's not the wife who's bothering you, it's not the neighbor. It's your own. You have to take the responsibility of that memory. You have stored this memory. And you start taking that ownership and say, yeah, okay, this is the junk that I have collected in my consciousness, I need to clean it out. You acknowledge that, you accept that, and you let it go. It stays with you when you resist it and say, no, this is not mine. That idiot son of mine had not done this, I would not be sitting like this. Wait a minute. Why did you let that idiot son of yours influence you so much? A meditator has to first learn. The action may be somebody else's, but reactions are yours. You have to take the responsibility of the reaction, if not the action directly. Actually, as you go deeper, you will find out the actions are also yours. There's a beautiful parable about this. That the mind has this habit. That somebody went to steal something from somebody's home. And he broke the window, wanted to enter the home. As he broke the window and climbed to the window, the door fell on his foot and he broke his foot. He couldn't steal anything, he had to go home because he was hurt. Next day he went to the court and filed a lawsuit against the homeowner. And the lawsuit said that he did not build the window properly, because as I was getting through the window, it broke my foot. It's his fault. So the homeowner came to the court and said, wait a minute. Yes, it is my home, but I did not build the window. The carpenter did. So if anybody is at fault, it is the carpenter. Okay. So call the carpenter. So the carpenter came and said, you made this window? He said, yeah. The window was not fitted properly. He said, yes, it did have defect in it, but it's not my fault. So why? Why it's not your fault? Say, while I was putting this together and cutting the joint properly, a beautiful girl with a 7-colored scarf walked by me. The scarf was so attractive because I could understand a scarf of a single shade, but 7 shades in a single scarf, and a pretty girl wearing it. I got so distracted that the joint was not fitted properly. Well, that makes sense. Okay, call the woman. When the woman with the scarf comes in the court, and she says, well, did you distract him? He says, well, wait a minute. She took the scarf off and said, look at my face. Nobody otherwise looks at me, I'm so ugly. Nobody actually looks at me, and I told my husband to make a scarf that at least I can hide my face and still look attractive to somebody else. So it's not my fault. He made that salmon-colored scarf. So call him. He has fault. It's okay, call that guy. So the guy who made the scarf, he came to the court, and suddenly everybody realized that his foot was broken. Be careful when you do this, because they may come right back to you. That ultimate culprit may be not anybody else but you. That's what happens to the mind. If you are thinking of a spiritual path, first see inside you, have you developed enough energy that when somebody says you need to make this change, that you can bow your head and say, thank you for helping me to grow? Or do you have the energy to say, who the hell are you? Have you ever looked at your own face in the mirror? You are telling me to do this? That's not. And he says, how did I get there? He says, I meditated. I repeated his name, Kabir, 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 Kabir. Not my name, his name. With what intention? Pache lage harapure. To go after him, to that ultimate state. With that objective, I took one word and repeated it up till that point, the mind dropped. And I was able to get to that state of blissfulness. Kabir, hardi piyadi, chuna ujjal bhaye, ram snehi tau mile, dono barna gavaye. Now this is going to be a very, very tough medicine for a lot of us. Because when you go to the so-called saints and so-called religious people, they will tell you, don't steal, don't kill, don't do this, don't do that, which are all good things. Drop the negative energy. Don't do anything bad. And you say, well, what is saying? And Kabir is going to say something totally different. Isn't that strange? This is what we hear from everyone. Don't tell a lie. You have those 10 commandments, and you hear all of them all the time. And particularly in this culture. In our culture, in the Eastern mysticism, they are said differently, but the basic intent is the same. Now look what he's saying. He said, Kabir hardi piri. Yellow, henna, turmeric. That's a color. So he takes an example from the color, and then he says, Chuna ujjal bhai, the white. He says, now, what does that mean? He says the world consists of positive and negative, good and bad, right and wrong, colorful and white. The life moves in those two polarities. Kabir, hardi piyari, chuna ujjar bhai. Two poles of the life. Yin and yang, male and female, negative and positive, plus and minus, right and wrong, black and white, day and night. The life moves in those polarities. He says, but the state that I am talking to you is what? Ram snehi tau mile dono varna gavaye. He says this, you have to drop the attachment with both. Dono varna, both positive and negative. I mean, this is the most revolutionary thing for a meditator to realize. Somebody might say, don't say something bad about somebody. It makes sense. But don't say anything good about somebody also, that doesn't make sense. Well, why not? That's the good thing. Say, wait a minute. whether you are attached with the positive or you are attached with the negative, the common word is attachment. You're still attached. It is not with what you are attached. The fact that you are attached, you are still in Maya, you are still with the physical dimension. The attachment is of the positive, that I understand, but still attachment. A meditator has to learn to transcend both, has to go beyond both. If you are going away from the enemy, at the same time you are also going to go away from the friend. You have to get away from it. Why? Because that state is not attached to anything. So you say, well, what if I can only attach to the positive? What's bad with that? Nothing. Nothing is wrong with that. Nothing is bad with that. What will happen? You will be considered a good person. But a person anyway. You get a good body, a good life. But life anyway. You will be born. You will go through the cycles, albeit a good one. You will have a happy life, a healthy life, but yet you will be born. There's no getting away from that fact. And he says, that's not where I want to take you. I am trying to give you the message how to merge with the one who is never born, never die, doesn't come into the time cycle, is beyond that. He wants to take you there. He says, if that is the case, which is what every Bhagat says, which is what every meditator says, he says, then remember, चाहे रंगदार है, चाहे सफेद है, दोनों छोड़ने पड़े. You drop both. कबीर हरदी पीर तन करे, चून चहन ना रहाए, बलहारी यह प्रीत कौ जे ए जात बरण कुल जाए. Now, when we were talking of Kabir's life history, we discussed that the controversy about him being a Hindu or a Muslim continues till today and will continue forever. Nobody knows. And he was shunned by both. He was not allowed to study either in the Islamic schools or in the Brahman schools, in the Vedic schools. They will say you are a Muslim, go there. They will say you are a Hindu, go there. And he could not do either one of them. And he accepted that. He realized that. And he could see that those who are trapped in these positive and negative games, they are not able to achieve any spiritual evolution where his master Ramanand was able to take him. And he hammers that. He says, Kabir hardi pirtan kare. That negative will give its own color. Hardi color at this point, he says, Kabir hardi pirtan kare. Rangda, pila. Choon chehen na rahaye. White will cover everything else, make everything like white. Positive will make everything positive. But he says both of these are lower states of existence. Balahari eh preet ko je jaat baran kul jaye. He says the real love for the creator, the creation is when you drop both of them. So he reinforces the thought in the first shloka, in the second shloka, and then he says, well, it's not easy. If it was so easy, then everybody will be a Kabir, everybody will be a Ramanand. That's not easy. He says, why not? He says, Kabir muk dwara sankara. He says, it's a very tough. Mukt dwara sankara rai dasme bhai. Rai is a seed, the smallest seed. And actually, if you study Thomas's quotations, and actually Rajneesh also spoke on that, mustard seed. Actually, his one book is under that title, Mustard Seed. Rye. It's a very, very small brown colored seed, very smallest one. That's visible seed. And he says that seed can be seen. He says, "Dasme bhai, 1/10 of that." He says, if in the physical dimension you want, these are parables. Don't take it literally that he's taking a seed and saying that the gate to the heaven is of that size. That's not what it is. He says it's a very narrow path and a very difficult path. Now the path is so small, but look what happens to the human. He says, "Man tao magal hoye rahe." Magals means elephant. He says the path is so narrow. Now why he is saying man to magal? Hathi. He's talking of the ego of the human is so large as compared to the passage that is so small. Kabir, that path is so narrow, and the human ego is equivalent of the size of an elephant. Kabir mukt dwara sankara rain dasme bhai mar to magal hoye raho nikso ke hoke jaye. He says, how the hell he can pass through the door? And Jesus said a similar quotation, did he not? That an elephant can walk through the hole of that needle, the eye of the needle. A camel can walk, but the rich man cannot. What does that mean? The ego. Where did he say that quotation? Remember? He goes to Jerusalem, and before he enters, he finds these money lenders sitting right in front of. So this is the house of the Lord, where the exchange is being traded. So this is what we do. How many temples and gurdwaras we go to and we find those shops right in front? So what do we see by the very first day? Let's stop if we can buy a CD from here. Lata Mangeshkar ka gana aaya ki nahi? And we gone to mandir, right? We gone to gurdwara. We gone to church. What do we see first? The books and the CDs. That's what has happened to our place of worship. That's a human ego. That's where Jesus said, he said, these people, what have you done to the house of the Lord? Turned it into a place of business. He says, there is no hope for this kind of mind. Then how is it possible? He does not leave us with a disappointment. He goes further and he says, Kabir, ऐसा सतगुर जो मिले तुठा करे फसाओ मुक्त द्वारा मोकला सहजे आवो जाओ. He says, don't you ever dare think that anything that you do is going to make that happen. Tuttha Satguru, if he wills and gets you in the company of the right person, right people. Tuttha Satguru, Kabir, aisa Satguru je mile, tuttha kare pasao. He will come in his own compassion. He will be happy and give that grace for. He will, if he sends to you the right master and you get into the right company with his grace, then mukta dwara mokla. Mokla means open. Then the door will open up. Why? The door is going to still remain, your eye is going to start becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. He's going to actually show you what you really are. And then you are able to pass through that. Last stanza for the evening. Kabir, mohe shan na shapuri, na mohe ghar nahi gao, mat har puche kaun hai mere jaat na naam. That's where that's what I said, he's going to tell everybody that the word Kabir is not the Kabir that we are thinking of, a person which was born in flesh and bones and was left on a river and somebody raised and somebody educated and somebody made a bhagati. That's not the Kabir he's talking about. He says that Kabir is what? He says, look, Kabir mohe chanana chapuri. A house, chan or chapuri. He says, I have no place, I have no name, no face. Mohe chanana chapuri, na mohe ghar, nahi gaon. He says, I don't have anything to identify me with. He says, then what? He says, Matahar puche kaun hai mere jatana. There is nothing for me to tell as to who am I when I get there. And he asked me, who are you? I said, what am I going to tell? I have no name, no face, no village, no address, nothing to say. Why? Why is he saying that? That is the total dissolving of, dropping of everything. What do we do when the child is born? The very first thing. We are not allowed to bring the child from the hospital, first name him. We give the name, don't we? Ajit naam to certificate pe likha hai. We start the process with the naming the child. He says, wait a minute, I don't have a name. So you are called Kabir. He says, Dr. Kabir is my mother, she was mad. I'm not Kabir. Kabir means the greater than the greatest. I am nobody. So I don't accept that name associated with me. I accept the word Kabir because it's associated with him. I don't accept the word Kabir because my mother called me or my father called me. So he concludes that within his own, he starts with, he says, look, we started the talk with saying, Basano ki kukar bhari, he says, human body form is meant for one and only one objective, which is you can take the jump into the ultimate from this. That's the only human body form. He says, and if you don't do that, if you don't get there, that dog which is sitting at the door of the meditator is better than that person who is totally absorbed in the total satisfaction of the physical senses. And when you get into that, he walked through these 10 stanzas today to us and says, where will you get eventually? Here is the test. And the last test he gives us, Kabir, na mohe chan na chapuri, na mohe ghar nahi gaon, mat har puche kaun hai mere jaat bana.